You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
Welcome to Manifesting Your Dreams. Join renowned Grammy Award winner, jazz pianist, and Amazon #1 best-selling author John Novello each week as he uncovers the secrets of the invisible architect, the quantum intelligent energy that permeates everything, even us. Discover how to tap into this inner power to use it to design the perfect life you deserve. The invisible architect, as within so without, is your guide to achieving your dream life. And now, here's your host, the jazz philosopher, John Novello.
Hi, everybody. John Novello here, the jazz philosopher. Welcome to my Invisible Architect, As Within, Without weekly radio podcast on the Law of Attraction Radio Network, which I'm so excited and honored to be a part of. I learned a long time ago that true enlightenment is really only achieved through the service of others. The first part of this lifetime was inspiring others through my God-given musical talent, composing and performing. But I never figured in my twilight years I'd be directly helping others as a personal and spiritual servant of the Creator, who I have named the Invisible Architect. For the details of that, see my Amazon bestseller metaphysical book, The Invisible Architect, How to Design Your Perfect Life from Within. Nevertheless, here we are. So welcome back to all listeners, and especially a big welcome to all new listeners. My vision, and that's why I'm excited about our guest today, because we have a similar vision, is to transform the quality of your life by raising your mindset frequency towards the God frequency, your true inner power, as well as teach you the spiritual mechanics of interaction with this inner power. So for those who want to ascend to their next level of personal and spiritual development by embracing their unique genius, continue further on their self-realization and serve humanity, you are on the right podcast, especially with today's guest. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sri Preethaji to the podcast. Welcome, Sri.
Yeah. Namaste. That's how we welcome in India.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'd like to start off with what I do with most guests is have you tell your story, where you're from, what are you doing, and how you got to be doing what you're doing. I understand you have a big following and a movement that we want to discuss and a book, but I'd love to find out how you got started on this path, because not everybody goes on this type of path,
That's true. See, we're actually a second generation of people doing this work, and our own experiences, both my husband and mine, independently and together, our own experiences of profound, deep experiences in consciousness, mystical experiences, the profound experience of the inner state of calm, peace, joy is what has led us in doing whatever we are doing today.
That's fantastic. I would like to give the audience a little bit of a bio on both of you. Sri Preethaji and Sri Krishnaji. Sri, our guest today, is a world-renowned relationship guide helping millions of couples and families find connection, love, and peace. And along with her husband, Sri Krishnaji is an enlightened master mystic and original philosopher. They are co-founders, which I want to find out more about here in a minute, of the Oneness movement that is awakening millions of people worldwide to emotional well-being. God knows we need this on this planet at this time. And that is awakening millions of people to loving relationships, inner peace, and spiritual enlightenment. They are sought after globally for their peace efforts, which have transformed the lives of more than 30 million people. Wow, that's fantastic. They are also authors of The Four Sacred Secrets, which became a national bestseller in the U.S., and this book provides practical guidance for personal transformation, emotional healing, and spiritual growth. I think just recently you guys conducted the Oneness Global Summit in July, attracting more than 100,000 people from 63 countries. Is that right?
Yes.
How did that go?
It went extremely well in terms of how much people really needed this at this hour.
Where was it held?
It was a studio from Charleston that we did, which connected us to people across the globe, different parts of globe, starting from Japan, Australia, and the East, all through the Americas and the Europe and Asia. So it was an incredible 3-day experience that we could actually lead people through getting out of anxiety and creating abundance of love, joy, and wealth in their lives. So to actually see the response coming from all different parts of the world, but they are for towards a common goal of wanting to live a more joyful, peaceful life. So there was a huge response from everywhere, I would say.
When did you start the oneness movement?
As I mentioned, it's a second generation that we are leading. It is started by my husband's parents,
Wow.
and 2016 we have been from 2016 we have been running it, and the vision is still the same to help people move away from stress, anxiety, fear, loneliness, to help people live lives peacefully. And Sri Krishnaji and I talk about a visual depiction of what our vision actually is. I think that will be the easiest way to convey what we wanting to do to the world. We always say our vision is to have Buddha driving an eco-friendly Benz with your loved ones. So that is the vision that we hold for each and every seeker, participant whom we touch, or whose lives we touch. Here, Buddha represents always, spirituality has been something separate from life. It is like
Right.
looked upon like, I'm not material, I'm spiritual. I'm not spiritual, I'm very material. Like it's always seen as two extremes. But what Sri Krishnaji and I saw is, it is actually not extremes. If you're living in the world, you want to create wealth, you want to create a beautiful family, you want to enjoy every experience that is flowing into your lives, that means your inner experience has to be great. You cannot live in a with a constant inner chatter. You cannot live with fear and anxiety and believe that you're going to create an extraordinary life externally. They're not actually going together, right? To live in pain, to live in suffering, and to create something spectacular on the external world. So, what Sri Krishnaji and I are bringing is not limiting spirituality to a few seekers, which was what it was a couple of, say, 2 or 3 decades ago, to actually bring spirituality into life. So people can emerge into being awakened parents, awakened teachers, awakened business owners, awakened leaders. See, that is our vision. That's why we say a Buddha driving an eco-friendly Benz, and you're traveling in that Benz with your loved ones. The Buddha represents living in that profound state of inner calm, free of conflict, free of disconnection, free of division. And from that state, you're creating all that you can create in life, whether abundance or creativity or whatever you want to create in life. And that is the eco-friendly lens. Life feels effortless, living feels effortless. You're not going against the flow. You are in a very beautiful flow of life. And in this entire journey, you're not alone. You also have a very beautiful heart that can actually allow you to connect with your loved ones, connect with the people in your life, and nurture their experience of life as well. So that is the overarching vision of what we are bringing to the world. A Buddha driving an eco-friendly Benz and traveling in that Benz with your loved ones. So spirituality is actually pulled and brought into everyday life. If you look at the world today, have a lot of people living in anxiety, people are living in depression, and it's becoming a pandemic, I would say, in terms of how much young people are even depressed at this point. And how do we start and where do we start? It's always believed that you are in pain, you are in suffering, you are internally not feeling good because your external life is not great. The situation that you're facing, the challenges that you're facing, or the problems that you're facing. But what we're going to, what we are telling is or you have got used to being in that space of suffering, whatever that suffering is. Suffering as such is an overloaded word, but I think people who understand anxiety, inner noise, division, conflict, frustration,
Stress. Yeah.
pain,
Yeah. Yeah.
stress, comparison. So these are the words people actually relate to. And that has become your way of life. You get back to the same inner experience again and again and again. And that is getting coded, that is creating footprints of suffering, stress in your body. It is creating this similar connections in your brain, leading you up into the same state again and again. And we get a little step deeper to show that, when you live in suffering, when you live in stress, say when you're living in anxiety all the time, you are going to face situations in your life that is going to keep you in anxiety.
Exactly. That's why the name of my podcast is actually As Within, So Without. And my book subtitle is How to Design a Perfect Life from Within. So my goal is to help people get in contact with God, source, the invisible architect, and learn how to co-create and take their inner world and make it clear and stress-free and loving so they can create a better life and serve humanity better. There's a famous author, I don't know if you've ever read this book by James Redfield. The book was called Celestine Prophecy. Have you ever heard of that book?
No, I haven't.
It's a fantastic book. It's a fiction book it's about a guy who was disillusioned with life, and he heard that in Peru there was some spiritual movement going on. So he went to Peru and he started studying these various insights. And one of the things he learned was, and this I think applies to what we're both talking about, society in general currently has been disconnected from the larger source of dynamic universal energy that sustains us and responds to us. And this separation is what causes us to feel weak and stressed and insecure. And once we hook up to source, things start relaxing and we can get rid of that. So we're on the same page. Tell me about the book, The Four Sacred Secrets. I think that's a personal transformation and healing and spiritual book, correct?
Yes. So this book that we've written, Krishnaji and me, both my husband and me, we've written this book. We wanted it to be a journey. It is not another book of information or knowledge. We wanted everybody who picked up the book to read it very slowly, go through those practices, the reflections, and actually make it their personal journey. So that you can start off a spiritual evolution in your consciousness right from where you are. And the book actually has reflections, it has stories of transformation, it has our experiences that we have, what we have had, the powerful awakenings that Sri Krishnaji has had. So it's all included in the Four Sacred Secrets. And it teaches you, Sri Krishnaji talks about a very phenomenal insight to the world.
What are the four secrets, if I may ask?
Yes, before we get into the Four Secrets, I just wanted to give this
Okay,
background.
all right.
Krishnaji talks about this phenomenal insight, and the insight is, every human being lives only in two states. That is, at any point in time, you're either living in a state of suffering or state of stress, if you're feeling comfortable with the word stress, or a state of no suffering. If no suffering again is intangible to you, then we call it the beautiful state. So you're either living in a state of stress or you are living in a beautiful state, and there is no third state. That is, at this moment, what is it that you are experiencing internally? Are you experiencing sadness or comparison or hurt or fear or loneliness or insecurity? Or in this moment, you're experiencing calm, joy, love, connection, togetherness. That's what you're experiencing. And there is no third state. So the most important decision of your life is from which state you want to live and experience life. People take it for granted. Okay, I'm unhappy, I'm sad, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, but nobody is doing anything on that. So your quality of life, your life itself is so dependent on the state that you are in constantly. So this being the overarching principle of the book itself, or the insight of the book itself. The first sacred secret is to live with a spiritual vision. We all have a vision for the external world in terms of how much you want to achieve, how much weight you want to lose, where you want to live, which vehicle you want to travel, or with whom you want to spend your life. So you have a vision for the external life. But you need to have a spiritual vision for your inner state, because that is the foundation of your entire life. Without that foundation being right, you can have a beautiful wife, you can have, or a wonderful husband, you can be traveling in a private jet or a yacht, you could be living in the most prestigious location in the world, but you're going to be sad living in that house. So we're not saying you need to negate the external life. What we are trying to tell you is the foundation of joyful experience of life begins from inside. And that is why we say you need, the first sacred secret is to have a spiritual vision.
Right. Well, that's your inner world. Exactly.
Yes, to nurture that beautiful inner state constantly. So the second is, in the book, it is inner truth. What it is an art of awareness, where you're not trying to tweak and shift and change that which is arising, because if you begin to fight that which is arising internally within you, you're going to be caught up in a lifelong fight and conflict. That is not the way you change what you are experiencing internally. So you can't change one particular thinking with positive thinking. You try 100 times, you get back to the negative thinking again and again. There is a specific art and there is a specific practice that you need to do in order to dissolve that inner suffering that is arising. And that is the second sacred secret, which is the inner truth. The third secret is awakening and connecting to the vaster intelligence of the universe. There is divine, there is God in the entire universe. And this divine, this God is not only in the universe, it's also in you. And there is a very specific way of connecting to this universe. And most of them probably connect to this divine, this God, only when in a state of desperation, in a state of helplessness. But internally, it is only when you free of suffering and stress and anxiety, in that space of calm. Only in a space of calm connection is possible. So the third truth, the third secret that is there in the book is how you connect to this vaster intelligence of the universe. And the fourth truth is right action is what we call action, because always people ask us, how do we act? What is right in this situation? Should I be with this person or should I leave this person? Should I buy or should I sell? Should I make a decision of being in this organization or not? So you tend to always act from a state when you are internally disturbed. When you are in suffering, when you are in stress, when you are in anxiety, the way your brain is structured is it pushes you into action. And those actions that is coming are all arising from stress and anxiety in itself carries an energy which flows out into your life which flows out into your life in terms of what is in terms of the energy and the repercussions of that energy getting passed on. So right action or spiritual right action is actions that is performed free of disconnection, free of suffering, free of fear and stress and anxiety and anger. And from that space of connection, you truly perform actions that would create a beautiful flow, a beautiful energy into the universe. And you are at the receiving end of what the universe has to offer to you. So these are the four sacred secrets in order to create a beautiful life, a wonderful family, a great impact on the world. So it starts with the individual. It starts with wanting to live free of suffering, wanting to nurture a beautiful state again and again. A life free of problems, a life free of challenges is not possible. It's not
Exactly.
possible. It's not possible for human beings. It's not possible for any other species on this planet. So to believe that you will become joyful and happy only the day when all problems that are surrounding you is going to be dissolved is a day that is never going to come. So are you going to push your happiness for some unknown date which is never going to come? Or are you going to make a decision to nurture your beautiful inner state using the practices, the processes, dissolving the stress out of your body, out of your brain, out of your consciousness, nurturing the beautiful space of calm, joy, love, and connection? And from that space, dissolve the problems that you have, address the challenges that you're facing, and create a life of impact for others. So that is the overarching vision that we have, and there is also the vision that we have, and it begins with the individuals.
Well, don't you think that we incarnate or reincarnate for the purposes of remembering our divinity and for the purposes of personal growth? So we don't come and take up these sacred physical vehicles, of course, to avoid suffering or avoid trials and tribulations. We actually use life in the interactions to find out who we are and find out our connection to God, who I call the invisible architect. And so that separatism that's going on the planet right now is what causes that anxiety and that lack of joy. And the more we remember our roots and learn how to interact with them, the better all this happens. So I really like your four secrets, because you're talking about the connection and how to clarify and strengthen our inner world. Because if our inner world is weak or unknown, then of course it just creates more of the outer world circumstances that everybody is suffering.
It's a very good question. It's a very good share that you're doing, John. But what we take people through very deep processes. And what we have seen is absolutely to kind of experience unity with the divine, experience oneness is the very purpose of everybody's existence. And that's when you feel complete, total, and that's the path we lead people through. But what is happening is what we have observed from innumerable lives that we have touched over the last several years is, when an anger is fueled in the previous lifetime, it gets continued in this. And you say you're hurt for some reason by somebody in a previous lifetime. This lifetime, you're not the helpless person, but you become the aggressor. So you change roles or you continue with the same roles. But the true purpose of living is to dissolve that anger, to dissolve that fear, to dissolve that hurt, and evolve into a human being who's so loving, who's so kind, who's free of all those suffering states. And that is when you kind of truly connect with your divine experience states of oneness. We lead people through very powerful experiences of connection with the divine, very powerful states of oneness with the divine, seeing divine everywhere, seeing divine in all life. Whether it's a personal divine or experiencing the divine in the entire universe, either as a personal divine or seeing the field of divine around you. These are very powerful experiences that do happen. But what we strongly see is people have to learn to dissolve suffering. People have to learn to dissolve suffering to experience any connection, whether it's connection with oneself, connection with the other, connection with the vaster world, connection with the divine. And when that experience fills you, that experience of connection fills you, then you feel so alive, you feel total, you feel complete.
Exactly.
Yes. And absolutely, as you said, that is the very purpose of life. Whether you see the divine as an individual, as a field, as an experience, but that experience is so beautiful, so palpable, so complete, and makes you totally full. And that is when the purpose of living is actually experienced.
Yeah, see, my research, I totally agree, by the way, but I believe that there are spiritual mechanics, which is a phrase from my book, which is learning how to not only get in contact with our inner self and the connection with the Almighty, but the discipline of controlling our thoughts. We don't have to be the effect of past lives and effect of these negative thoughts that come and create this suffering. There is technology on how to control your thoughts. And I don't just mean positive thinking, like, okay, I'm going to ignore it because then that push it back, right? But at the same time, I am is a very powerful statement, you know. So if a person is believing they're unhappy or they have bad relationships or et cetera, and they can't get past that thought, then even connecting with source is not going to help them until they learn how to control those thoughts. And so I found an interesting principle from physics that's applicable here. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. In the physical universe, no two objects can occupy the same space at the same time, right? Otherwise, you would fall through the chair and fall through the planet, right? In the mental thought universe, no two thoughts can occupy the same space at the same time. And so if we learn how to control our thoughts, so let's say a person wakes up and he's got all these negative thoughts and reactive pushbacks. Well, if you substitute for that negative thought an actual positive thought or the ideal thought and learn how to control your thoughts, then you are eventually starting to control your inner world. After a while, it becomes a good habit. Instead of waking up and agreeing with all this suffering, you actually learn how to control your thoughts and beliefs, and eventually it becomes a good habit. What are your thoughts about that?
Uh, People need not live based off on their past experiences, however traumatizing it has, and the past should not control their current lives. That we are definitely, yes. We don't need to live because of some past experience that has happened and the impact of that you're still living today. But in terms of controlling thoughts, John, you really can't change your thinking. All that you can do is dissolve that arising that is happening, and you just bring total attention to it. That is why the practice of awareness is so important, because only in awareness the surge dissolves, and then you can nurture beautiful states in consciousness.
But do
To
you mean
kind of
awareness of the problem or awareness of source or what awareness of what?
awareness of that inner disturbance, aware whether
Okay.
it's a thought of shame, it is a thought of comparison, it's a thought of doubt, whatever that is coming. You can't
Agreed.
say,
Yeah.
you should not doubt, or you should not be comparing, or you should not be ashamed. By replacing that positive thinking, it is not really helping because it's only creating greater conflict. But in you bring awareness, that's why we have so many practices of awareness in what we teach and where we lead people. We bring their total attention to that thinking that is arising in them. So that thing, when in that total awareness, that thinking dissolves.
So you
And
become the observer by
yes,
becoming aware, and you
yes.
can sort of then become detached, like the Buddhist concept. Is that what you're saying?
For us, awareness is just more than just observation. For us, awareness is to observe in the light of an insight.
I see.
So when we say we as I said, we kind of lead people through very deep. Our vision is enlightenment of human beings. So it is like very deep in terms of the insights, the wisdom that we actually lead people through the processes as well. So at every point in the journey, we kind of show different light and different insights. We throw the light of that insight, and even if you start off with that simple insight, profound, simple but profound insight that I shared with you on two states, to use that insight and to observe, okay, there are only two states, and now what is that state I'm living in? What is that inner experience I'm having? Am I disturbed internally, or I am calm and peaceful? Or am I worried about something, or I am joyful about something? To actually observe in light of an insight for us is awareness. And in that space of awareness, something very different happens to the brain. The brain itself restructures. Say in suffering states, your amygdala is overactive, and your hippocampus is constantly making memories of this overactive amygdala. The experience that has happened is replaying, recreating, creating the same memories. Probably it has happened once. You have recorded it in n number of times, and that whole system in the brain has to change. And then you need to awake up different regions of your brain to experience greater calm and quiet. You need to wake up the prefrontal cortex. Awareness is the only enemy of habit. And awareness is the only way you can restructure the activation that is happening in your brain. Otherwise, it is the same old thinking that continues. You're fighting with it, but it continues. The more you fight with it, the more you try to control it, stronger it becomes. It comes out like with a vengeance. So that is why our practices, our meditations, our reflections, how much of focus it does have on nurturing beautiful states in consciousness of gratitude, of love, even taking up to states, experiencing states of incredible bliss, states of witness, states of oneness, states of union with the divine, experiencing the divine. Even when we take people through such a journey, we hold on to the practice and reflections around awareness of one's inner state. And depending on the person's capacity, the capability, then we show them their inner state with a light, with different lights, to actually allow them to see that which is arising inside from the deepest ends, from the deepest layers of your consciousness, to become free of it. So that is what we do.
So, but is the goal to not only become, this is my question, not only become aware of our inner state, but I would think that once one becomes aware, like in life, when you become aware of a problem, then and only then can you fix the problem. So by becoming aware of one's inner state and what's going on, I would imagine the goal is to eventually be able to change it for the better.
But in awareness as a process itself doesn't have that whole thing of twisting and tweaking and changing.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness is dissolution of all that suffering, that muck, the inner negative states, if you want to call it. We call it stressful suffering states, that dissolving. But that starts off with a vision of not wanting to be there.
Why? So by dissolving it, you're actually...
And nurture, when you dissolve those suffering states, when you dissolve the stressful states, that is when you're able to nurture connection, right? That's when you're
Exactly.
able to come to place of gratitude, to connecting with the divine, appreciation for life that you have, a little calm, an experience of peace. All that is possible only when there is no stress. Internally,
Right.
as you said, two objects cannot occupy at the same place, right? Two
Mm-hmm.
states cannot be at the same time, same place. It is only in
Exactly.
the dissolution, even divine connection for that matter, only when the dissolution of suffering happens, then the connection happens. Or the
Agreed.
other way around also. But we definitely stress on people living free of suffering, because we feel, we believe, and we see that the world is in such a place of disconnection and crisis and stress and pandemic of loneliness and depression, everything that's happening, because by people have got used to being in stress.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're coping rather than dissolving and observing and becoming aware. They're just
Yes.
putting up with it and coping with it every day. And that stress, as you said earlier, physically impinges negatively upon the body and causes, so the spiritual disharmony causes physical disharmony. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Uh, yes, what exactly the world has learned to do very well is coping, managing, distracting, running away. And none of this has helped.
Mhm. No, it will
What
never help.
what we need is a total attention, a total dissolution of that suffering, taking out traces of those weeds. Weeds continue to grow, but then you have to be aware of that weed growing, then remove. That's when the weeds get removed. So it is not management of suffering. It is not distracting oneself. It is not replacing a negative thought with a positive thought. It is not holding on to a particular philosophical idea or thinking so that you can cope with your suffering. No, it is actually bringing attention to that inner suffering that is arising and dissolving it.
Right, because once we become aware, then that can happen.
Yes.
So I have a question for you. Um, I'm going to make a statement and like your comment. We are not separate beings manipulating we are not separate beings manipulating eternal forces, but we are individualized expressions of the one creative consciousness awakening to its own nature. In other words, the super consciousness, invisible architect, God, source, whatever you want to call it, actually expresses its perfection through each of us. We are the particular, it's the general. What's your comment on that?
It'll be incredible if every individual is allowing the grace, the divine, to flow through them.
Exactly.
If you have to think of one thing that is not allowing that to happen, it is the analogy that we usually give is like a bamboo. A bamboo, when it is hollow and it allows the wind to pass through it, it makes such a beautiful music to the ears.
And I'm
But
aware of that sound, being a musician.
yes,
Bamboo flutes and everything.
everything. And it becomes, yeah, it becomes a very beautiful flute, allowing the music to pass, the wind to pass through it, creating such a beautiful experience for the ears. But imagine that bamboo is not not hollow, and it is blocked. And then it doesn't allow anything to flow through it. And that blockage in the bamboo is the analogy that we have for the blockage in the individual. And that blockage is suffering. So when you free yourself from suffering, and when you experience liberation from that suffering that has kind of got you in, then you are like that hollow bamboo that's allowing the flow of divine grace in you and through you into life. And one of the most powerful experiences that people have in the field of awakening retreat that I carry people through is help journey is to experiencing the divine in themselves, to seeing and experiencing the divine in the other, to feeling and experiencing the divine in all life, in
Yes,
everything.
that helps handle the separation, which is a problem. That's why I like your name of your movement, the Oneness movement, because we are all one.
Separate.
And once we realize that, uh, I think there's less suffering going on internally when we realize we're not separate. Not only we're not separate from the one, but we're not separate from each other, in nature, in everything.
And the more separation one lives in, because of more of suffering and more of stress and more of anxiety, more one is revolving their inner experience around stress, anxiety, more separate they live. And because they're more living in separation and disconnection, life feels very burdensome. Life feels very painful. And that's why our unique journey is a combination of practices of awareness and reflection and looking into suffering at the same time, leading them to powerful experiences of union, communion with the divine, with the field, with the universe, or moving into powerful experiences of bliss and being in the witness consciousness. So these are kind of coming together to experience liberation, to change the way the brain is functioning, to see which part of the brain is activated, into actually allowing them to becoming slowly but surely Buddhas driving an eco-friendly Benz, living with their loved ones.
Now, do you work with people individually or just in groups with your movement, or how does one become involved with your teachings?
So definitely we're on the social handles, but I lead people through vast groups. I lead people through online journeys, mystic processes that I lead. It's called Manifest. I also lead a 4-day retreat, pretty much many parts of the country, many parts of the world, from Tokyo, Korea, Malaysia, Europe, couple of cities in Europe and couple of cities in US. I travel all over the world leading people through these 4 days. So that is an experiential journey. And there in Ekam in India, we have huge congregations happening where thousands of people go through these powerful journeys in consciousness. And it is more groups, but for leaders and influencers, we do spend a little extra time. who can create a larger impact.
So if they go to your website, they can find out all about these things or what? Or no?
Everything. And for those who are listening and who want to take the first step but do not want to do not want to spend more time or more energy, then I would say they should start off with this journey called the Manifest. And the Manifest is a 3-hour mystic process that I lead every month on a Sunday. I do it for 3 different time zones, East, covering the East, and then India, and then the West.
It's called the Manifest?
Manifest.
And they can find out about all this on the website?
Yes. And
Oh.
the next
Oh.
step is definitely the Field of Awakening, which is a 4-day retreat. And it's coming to Los Angeles in September.
Oh,
So,
fantastic. That's where I lived for 40 years, but I live in the Nashville area, but I lived in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
It'll be wonderful to have you there, John, because it's a beautiful 4-day retreat. And
Well, we'll stay in contact and we'll see how the schedule goes once I find. Do you know what the dates are yet?
I don't have the dates, but it's towards the end of September.
Okay. Well, we can find out from your website and everything. Yeah.
Los Angeles dates. Yes.
Another question, because we've talked about suffering and observation and dissolution and all that kind of stuff, but don't you also think that trials and tribulations, challenges, suffering, whatever you want to call it, the purpose, if one pays attention, is that might be the exact right thing for a person's soul, for them to start rising more towards their divinity. I know that when I'm in the middle of a certain circumstance, I kind of ask myself, okay, why am I co-creating this situation and what am I trying to learn? Versus crossing over to the other side after a lifetime and maybe doing a life review and then coming back. But within a lifetime, observing my sufferings and trying to discover how is the divine expressing itself through this circumstance and what can I learn? What are your thoughts about that?
If it's just going to be another escape route, no. But if it's going to be about actually dissolving that inner anger or frustration or hurt that you're experiencing and then getting back to seeing the situation, then you would see you would be incredibly powerful in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you would be able to create a beautiful direction, either it's for your life or somebody else's life. It'll be very incredibly beautiful. But the problem is, John, people get stuck in stress and anger and fear, and from that space, relate to the situation, from that space, address the problems, trying to find solutions for those problems. So it'll actually disturb and the idea that it is given to me by a purpose, it should not become an escape route, not allowing them to see their suffering.
Right, exactly. No, you can't not is or deny the suffering because, as you said earlier, it just creates more chaos than less chaos, right?
And just for your information, the Los Angeles Field of Awakening dates are September 24th to 28th.
Okay, near the end of the month. All right.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. Pantheism is described as everything is God, but I like the other terminology, pantheism, which is everything is in God and God is in everything, which means we are consciousness exploring itself. When we explore, we become aware. I like your term aware because consciousness is really awareness. And as we become more aware of the situation, we're exploring ourselves and exploring our relationship. So I think it's fantastic what you guys are doing in enlightening people because we need more of that right now. There's too much separation. I think James Redfield was right in his book, Celestine Prophecy. The more we keep becoming separate from each other and separate from the divine, the weaker we get. And the more we start handling that separation and realize the oneness, which is why the movement you're talking about is a fantastic name, the Oneness movement. I really enjoy that. So do you have oneness movements all the time that are separate from this manifest that you talk about
Yes,
every month?
we have a huge community, huge following who go through our processes, our meditations. They're part of us. They kind of help many people around the world, teaching people how to live in beautiful states, helping them resolve their inner conflict, inner chaos. So that's why we call ourselves a movement, because we are spread all over in different across religion. I mean, nothing is a barrier for the movement, and the vision is to help people live in a peaceful, inner calm state. And we believe when more and more people learn to live in that peace, with that peace and calm, you're going to create a more peaceful world. More people living in anxiety and fear is going to create an anxious world, or a world filled with a lot more separation than what we are seeing today. So that
Uh,
is why our vision is.
yeah, I agree. It almost has to happen one at a time because each person who starts achieving what you're discussing is part of the collective, and then the collective's frequency gets raised as each individual's frequency becomes one and raised. And that's probably one of the only ways we can create a better planet is one by one, whether it's done through a group, whether it's done individually, or whatever. Don't you think?
We believe in creating a phase transition in humanity's consciousness. Phase
Exactly.
transition away from conflict, separation, disconnection, and division to experiencing calm, love, joy, peace, and oneness.
Exactly. Well, in my book, there's a chapter called Everything is Energy and Frequency. And as we raise our frequency and raise our energy towards the God frequency, then more and more constructive actions and behaviors and more love and peace and harmony happens. Well, listen, is there anything else we haven't discussed that you would like to say before we sign off? And also, I'd like you to you put so we have on the recording where people can get in contact with you guys on the website and everything.
Sure. Onenessmovement.org. So yes, in terms of, we definitely will believe that when people live in beautiful states, they're going to create an extraordinary life and a beautiful life, and you feel very powerful, empowered in terms of the direction your life itself takes when you are able to nurture beautiful states. And we believe in not just drawing out a problem and showing, we actually produce or give solutions to the problems that you are currently facing in terms of nurturing beautiful states. So that is why our processes, our 4-day retreats, our online journeys that we do is all directed towards you living free of suffering and nurturing beautiful states and consciousness. And I highly, highly recommend that you begin your spiritual journey somewhere, joining the Manifest journey, or if you're able to come to the Field of Awakening in Los Angeles between the 24th and 28th of this year, and many more Field of Awakening that is happening around the world. I'm in Tokyo, I'm in Munich, around the world. So you can see what works best for you. But it is important that you nurture a beautiful state in your consciousness, creating a beautiful life, creating an extraordinary impact in the world, and creating an extraordinary life as
So
well.
they can interact with you online, which is the Manifest every month. Is that right? And then you
Yes.
have various live events that are announced on your website as well, right?
Absolutely. The website is the onenessmovement.org. So that is where you will find all the information.
Fantastic. Well, it's been fantastic talking with you. I'd love to meet your husband one of these days as well.
Sure, definitely. It will be a very different, interesting conversation with Sri Krishnaji.
Yes, well, it's incredible hooking up, and maybe one day we'll do something together. Who knows? We'll see.
Absolutely. Would love to see you sometime in Los Angeles, because
Yeah,
it's
that would
free.
be fantastic. Although I'd love to go to India because I've never been there. I've traveled all
That would
around
be
the
an
world.
incredible experience as
What
well.
city are you guys in?
We are in the south. We are 90 kilometers away from Chennai.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for your gracious time and for your thank you for the movement and all that you're doing. This separatism that's going on has to change, and it has to change one by one. And as we raise the collective consciousness of the planet, we will help create a better planet. So thank you for all your wonderful work, and thank you for being a guest today. I'll make sure in the notes that the website and everything is there, and we'll send you the link and everything. Okay, so thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. So wonderful connecting with you, John, and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Namaste.
Thank you, everybody. I really enjoy your feedback. So you can email me at john@johnnovelloauthor.com. Wasn't she a fantastic guest? Or you can text me at 818-740-3728 and or get the details of my one-on-one mentor program, the Invisible Architect Alignment Protocol, which will help raise your frequency and help you create a better inner world. Because remember, as within, so without. Until next week, flourish. It's your destiny. John Novello, the jazz philosopher, over and out.
This concludes this week's podcast with The Jazz Philosopher, John Novello. To learn more about John, visit his website at johnnovelloauthor.com, or to schedule a one-on-one consultation with John, visit go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register. See you next week.